A dangerous promise of the self-driving car. Now, many drivers fear the self-driving car. Obviously, it's going to take their job away. But we already said years back, this is still a long, long, long time in the future. So just chill. If you have a car, do not even worry about self-driving cars yet. It's still way, way down the line. Now, this girl there, she's enjoying a luxury ride. No driver. Let's see what happens. Has the United States enjoyed a century-long love affair with the automobile, as Groucho Marx memorably put it in a 1961 television show? Or has the relationship been more like an increasingly toxic, forced marriage? Peter Norton, a history professor at the University of Virginia, has spent his career arguing it's the latter. His first book, Fighting Traffic, focuses on the 1920s, describing how a consortium of automobile, oil, rubber, and construction industries, Motordom, as Norton calls them, formed a strategic alliance to ensure car owners could drive quickly through the United States cities. The resulting sprawl, autocentric planning and policy, and inadequate transit often left traveling by car as the only viable option. Norton's new book, Autonoma, The Illusory Promise of High-Tech Driving, explores how the automobile maintained its dominance, especially in cities. During the decades that followed, he zeroes in on Motordom's skill at leveraging new technology to paint a vision of just around the corner automotive nirvana, including the current popular fascination with autonomous vehicles. Though diverse, the visions of high-tech driving share a common claim. With sensor data, state-of-the-art hardware, machine learning, and digital networking, onboard computers in every car will drive for us better than we do, and sooner than we think. Despite the extraordinary technological developments of the last 20 years, however, the practical possibility of widespread automatic driving remains elusive. High-tech solutions, always just over the horizon, are supposed to offer the anticipated deliverance. The lack, however, lies not in technology, but in the aspiration itself. Meanwhile, the supposed solutions, in promising an eventual end to all our afflictions, divert us from transport sufficiency, an unspectacular state in which everyone can meet their practical needs. That transport sufficiency would be a city designed to give people at least the option of taking the bus or riding a bike without sacrificing time or personal safety. By focusing on technology, Norton says, Motordom has successfully prevented Americans from pursuing more mundane and readily available mobility solutions. Bloomberg City Labs' David Zipper recently spoke with the author about the allure of autonomy and the battle to break America's car habit. The conversation has been condensed and edited for clarity. Your first book, Fighting Traffic, focuses on the role of the automobile in pre-war America, but Autonoma delves into a post-war era and the contemporary debate about autonomous vehicles. Why shift time periods? Well, I kept seeing autonomous vehicle promoters making claims, and the audiences were treating those claims as though they were brand new. To me, the promotional stuff for autonomous vehicles seemed exactly like Futurama, General Motors exhibit depicting an automotive utopia created for the 1939 World's Fair. And not even slightly more plausible. I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. You're showing a perfect future delivered by the latest car tech, and you're presenting it in a way that seems credible. I wrote this book because I feel we have a chance to not fall for the marketing this time and to avoid falling into a deeper rat hole. One of Autonoma's central arguments is that Motordom, an alliance of corporate interests that want people to buy more cars, keeps making unfulfilled promises about technology. Why doesn't Motordom pay a price for consistently failing to deliver on its visions? Motordom's basic claim is that it's possible to have a city where you can drive anywhere at any time and park for free when you get there. That vision is the common denominator between selling high-tech driving and selling car dependency. Autonoma's question is a specific one about how Motordom keeps the credibility going. Part of the answer is that every amazing new innovation becomes the thing that lets Motordom recover confidence and credibility. The companies realize that you have to be able to show off a technology that your audience doesn't really understand, whether it's radar or integrated circuits or machine learning. These things are breathtaking technologies. They have a dazzling effect, and popular skepticism falls because it's so impressive. But that impressiveness becomes a means by which you make incredible claims credible, even when that isn't warranted. There's then a gap after the over-promising. You stay in a trough for a decade or so, and then you come out. Let's talk more about your skepticism of autonomous vehicles, because you seem to be making two different arguments in your book. Is it that Motordom consistently fails to deliver on its promises of new technology and will do so again with autonomous vehicles? Or are you worried that autonomous vehicles will become widespread and cities will suffer for it? With autonomous vehicles, it's both. It can work, but the companies will create problems because they'll pursue it anyway. If a surgeon does invasive surgery and it doesn't work, he's going to do a lot of harm to your body without curing you. The destruction of pre-automobile cities like St. Louis or Cincinnati to create space for cars didn't mean that car dependency ever met its promises, but it did mean that the belief that it could was profoundly destructive. Waymo likes to claim that autonomous vehicles are working right now. The reason it works is that there is a hellscape that these things have to go through called Chandler, Arizona. Density is too low for anything other than driving to work well. Every residential street is too wide. The non-residential roads are all multi-lane arterials with turning lanes, and every destination is surrounded by a vast parking lot. If that's what you have to create for autonomous vehicles to work, it's a Pyrrhic victory. It's not worth it. If we could go back to the 1990s and hear Purdue Pharma talk about OxyContin solving everyone's problems, we'd be in righteous wrath. We've fallen for it with opioids. We don't have to fall for it with autonomous vehicles. In your book, you also compare autonomous vehicle research to health research funded by tobacco companies in the 1950s. Are you suggesting that autonomous vehicle companies know that their products will damage society, but still insisting on going forward? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Although to say that the autonomous vehicle companies know it might be a little unfair, because they really don't care. They're trying to get ahead in an intensely competitive environment, and the company that cares about reality is going to be the loser because it will limit its deployment. Motordom is asking, how do we make car dependency work? The real question is, how can we free ourselves from car dependency? Uber had to know it was taking indefensible chances with lives every day in Tempe prior to its prototype autonomous vehicle fatally striking Elaine Hertzberg in 2018. But Uber was also smart in that the company recognized that the company that doesn't take a risk has no future in the autonomous vehicle business. This picture you paint is pretty bleak. You argue that Americans are regularly hoodwinked by Motordom and that we're going through that process again now. But Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg now talks about the need to rebalance toward transit, cycling, and walking, and a growing number of urban residents and policymakers seem to be saying, I don't want more cars in my city, autonomous, electric, or otherwise, because it's just not a scalable solution. Are we getting wiser? We have to be careful because we have been through this before. For instance, in the early 1970s, we had a transportation secretary named John Volpe saying we needed to stop building expressways. The first EPA administrator at the time was also talking about reducing driving. And we had a big bike boom in the early 1970s, just as we were having now. That's right. And obviously, we then lost momentum. We have to remain super alert to the strategizing within Motordom because They are determined to turn mobility into a business model that works for them. They're talking about a future of mobility as a service where an autonomous vehicle could pick you up anywhere at any time. And of course, those vehicles will wear out and need replacing. Your penultimate chapter ends with, "Let's us not be fooled. What would you like readers to do with information you've shared with them?" I hope readers will make an important distinction about what the problem is. Cigarettes provide a historical lesson. When the Surgeon General's report came out in 1964, a discussion the tobacco companies wanted to have was, how do we make cigarettes safe? That was getting the problem wrong. The real problem was, how can we free ourselves from cigarettes? We are now in the exact same situation with automobiles. Motordom is asking, how do we make car dependency work? The real question is, how can we free ourselves from car dependency? That doesn't mean freeing ourselves from all cars all the time. It's freeing ourselves from a world where if you don't have a car, you're doomed because you can't get to work. The accommodation of car dependency is the perpetuation of car dependency. That statement applies to high-tech car dependency every bit as much as it does to conventional car dependency. Thank you very much. Very interesting article. Please share your thoughts and comments. Thank you.